I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any? Welcome. Thank you guys for being here tonight. We have a lot on the agenda to get through, so we're going to get going. Any additions or deletions? Okay. Opportunity for public comment? Nothing? All right. Superintendent report.
Yes, so I would like to report that Ms. Dana Bogathy has been, I think, elected as the Region 1 Chair for the Indiana Association of School Business Officials organization. It's quite an undertaking, and Dana, tell us a little bit about what that is going to entail for you and why you've got a big S for soccer.
I will be leading up the best region in the state, Region 1, which is Lake County, Porter County, Newport, business managers, HR professionals, and maintenance workers, and all that together. We have monthly meetings that center around professional development, so I'll be spearheading all of that and spearheading the wonderful discussions that we have that shape everything that we do in schools for our kids and everything. So it's a great honor. It's a 2-year serve that I will do, and it was wonderful to be nominated and to be voted in for that. So I look forward to it.
Congratulations. She will represent Tri Creek well.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Second item, I'm going to pass the mic to Kevin Deal because there are new items in the pipeline regarding teacher certification and reading.
So this is kind of an FYI in case you get questions or you hear grumblings. There is a requirement for a literacy endorsement for educators that was a part of previous legislation and went through a slight revision with the current legislation. The previous one made it a requirement for any new pre-K through 6 licensed teacher to get with their new educator license. So it was something that they'd be coming out of their undergraduate with as a requirement. The change was beginning in 2027, any teacher with a PK through 6 license or special education K through 12 is required to get that literacy endorsement to renew after 2027, non-negotiable. So if you are a grade 2 teacher, if you're a grade 6 social studies teacher, they don't necessarily care what content you're specifically teaching. If your license says PK through 6, you're required to do it after 2027. What the department is doing right now is to help encourage people to do that. In order to take the praxis test, you have to have 80 hours of professional development in an approved course. Right now, through the summer of 2025, the department is offering that for free through a program called the Keys to Literacy. It's a hefty commitment. 80 hours is a lot. And that is not just at your own pace. It is required seat time where you're going to actually be going through modules and doing that work in required chunks within a week of time rather than just at your own pace. They're also incentivizing that for any teacher that completes that prior to that date in 2025, there's a $1,200 stipend for completion. It has nothing to do with our school corporation that's funded entirely by the state. A lot of funding has come from Lowell. So if you have those questions about, gosh, this is a big task that's ahead of me, it is. And 80 hours is a lot, but that does get them the ticket to then take the praxis, get the literacy endorsement, and then come 2027 or any time afterward that they renew, that would be one of the qualifiers for continuing that licensure. Just wanted to share with you because there's a lot of talk about it around the state. I had the opportunity, I was at a 2-day conference down in Indianapolis today and yesterday called TitleCon, which is all of the federal grant specialist folks that serve in my role. A lot of talk about this happened in the sessions. It was really beneficial to be able to sit down, ask some of my clarifying questions to the Department of Education representatives, rather than just trying to field emails and FAQs and that kind of thing. So FaceTime with them was really valuable, and it helped to clarify some things. We've been doing our part to make sure all of our teachers are up to speed with things. Whenever I get an update or a clarification, we're pushing that information out so they're informed and they can take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them.
Thank you.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. One additional part, sometimes there's trepidation around like a program like that. I can tell you that somebody that I have a tremendous amount of respect for in the literacy world, working with a lot of the literacy cadre schools. She works for one of our service centers. She gave the Keys to Literacy a glowing review, and our teachers are going to love it. It is an undertaking, but they're going to learn so much from it, and that it's very, very high quality. So it's great to get that endorsement, so it doesn't become like a hoop they have to jump through, point, click, get my thing. It's really going to be a good learning experience. So.
And there's a praxis test after all those 80?
There is a praxis test that they have to take. The state will pay for you to take it one time. If you don't pass it the first time, any additional time you have to pay for.
Is that for specialty area 6th grade as well?
It's just if you were to, they don't really care what you teach. If you have a PK through 6 license, you have to do it.
Got it.
So if I'm working on a PK through 6 license and teaching social studies, it's the license that dictates it, not what I'm teaching.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Any board member reports?
Yes. Last night we had our NICEC Board of Managers meeting. It went through the traditional stuff, approving minutes and things of that nature. Some of the outstanding issues would be the Neola bylaws and policies. They updated them to more currently reflect what's going on today. And then there were several revisions and resolutions relative to PERF for their NICEC employees. And it's all in the betterment of the NICEC school district. That's basically about it.
Okay. Any others? Okay. We have a lot of good presentations, and we're going to start out tonight with the Lowell Middle School Spotlight presentation.
Oh, just a little bit. Go ahead. Yeah, that'd be great. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having us tonight. I have lots of people here tonight, so I'm going to introduce them. This is Gina Milcarrick. She's the assistant principal currently at the middle school. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Mallory Seid, the Dean of Students.
I'm Allie Yerk, the Student Support Behavior Specialist.
And then we have Mr. Schuler over here. He's going to present as well. And we have Mr. Johansson. And so these are all the staff members that are here to kind of present today. So we just wanted to start by, Jay, can you put it up there for me? Thanks. The next one. Am I clicking? You're clicking?
Are you
I'm ready.
presenting? Or?
No, you are, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, like when I'm clicking on here, it's not doing anything. No. So this represents our school. We have 744 students. We have 40 teachers. We have 25 support staff members, and they all make up this amazing school, Lowell Middle School. Go ahead. So we have this acronym. This is our mission, to inspire students. We kind of talked about this a little bit last year, but this kind of drives everything we do as a school. We want to create students who are problem solvers, next level ready learners, successful communicators, passionate advocates, independent thinkers, risk takers, and empathetic citizens. So you'll see that kind of infused throughout our presentation, and that's our mission, so our students are ready when they leave us, wherever they go. It's really important to kind of be aligned and to not be all over the place with our initiatives. So we worked really hard with our teachers and the administrative staff to really have a focus. And that has really helped us when we have any meetings. We try to really focus on these goal areas so that we're all aligned and our arrows are moving in the same direction. So the district goal is that at least 60% of our students will achieve at or above proficiency on the 2024 iLearn assessment in math and ELA. So that is our district goal. So our goal was based on that, where we needed to get our students from the middle school to reach this district goal. And then these are all of our different subject areas and what their area of focus is. So we'll kind of talk about most of those throughout this presentation. So the first goal area is mathematics. And I have been, can I move this? Can I move this? No. Okay. I'm going to read over here because I don't have my glasses on. So our goal is to increase proficiency by 10% over those 3 years. So we wanted to go from 36% passing, which sounds very, very low, but that in math, it is very low across the board, across the state. So you'll see a little bit of comparisons a little later on, but we wanted to move from 36% proficiency to 46% proficiency, and we are going to do that by focusing on student-centered literacy practices and really using that student data to inform our instruction and work on student needs. So this is our historical data. This is the most up-to-date data. They change the iLearn every now and then the COVID year, it wasn't very valid data. So the last 2 years is the best comparison that we have. So in over here, you could see 2 years, or last year, no, not last year, the year before, we had 41% in 6th grade, 38% and 30% in 8th grade. And then you could see that that is above the state average in each of those areas with the exception of 8th grade, which was right at that state average. And then last year we saw some pretty good growth. We had 50% of our kids in 6th grade, 45% in 7th, and then 33% in 8th grade. So again, those are above the state average, but we endeavor to be a recognized leader with exceptional growth and exceptional learning. So we're working on growing. So this is our proficiency. School-wide, we had 36% of our students were proficient 2 years ago. Last year, that improved to 43%. So usually when you see more, you see like 1 or 2% in a year, that's pretty good growth. So that was amazing growth, we thought, last year. We were really proud of that because it was, our goal is at 10% over the 3 years, and we saw, that 7% of growth last year. So we were really pleased with that growth last year. So it's all relative, right? So you're where you are. So I looked at other schools in the area, and we like to compare ourselves and see how we're doing relative to other schools that are like us, and also other schools in the area. So you could see that Munster had the highest proficiency in our area with 57.5% of their students proficient. Taft, Wheeler, and one of the Lake Central schools was above us, and then all of these schools were below us, and some of them significantly below. So we thought that was we were kind of proud of that, I guess. It's good to see how much we challenge ourselves, right? We want to get better. We want to be at the top, not just in our area, but in the state as well. So we will just continue to work to grow. We look at our NWEA data just to kind of see if we're moving in the right direction. And our NWEA data, it just kind of goes up and down depending on, when you give the assessments. Middle school kids sometimes don't see a lot of value in NWEA because they're not getting a grade on it. And we really try to pump them up and help them to understand how important it is for them to do their best. But we still feel like it doesn't always accurately reflect how our students are performing, but it's really the best we have to see how they're working toward their growth. So this shows their NWEA data over the years, and this is their growth goals. So we want to have it above 50% of the students making that year of growth or more. And you could see 2 years ago it was 47, 52, and 46, which was below that 50%. Last year we put a lot of different initiatives in place. We changed some of the resources we're using with math, and that made a big difference. We're using our PLC time more advantageously. We're really looking at student data, and the teachers are working together and planning their courses with one another. So we saw a lot of growth last year. This year it kind of came back down in 7th and 8th grade, but we continue to see that really high growth in 6th grade. So we do this again in the spring. So you could see, we would really like to see from spring to spring or from fall to fall, that whole year rather than just, that fall to winter. We really want to see a bigger picture. So some of the strategies that we are using in math that we feel are making a big difference, we are committed to doing the PLC meetings in a systematic way. So we have been attending solution tree training all year. We read some books as an administrative group, and we talked a lot about it in our district leadership team meetings. But then we have a person that came over, and he's kind of doing our training with our staff, and our leadership team is attending. We've had 2 sessions with him, and the teachers our teacher leaders are learning how to effectively utilize that PLC time to really make a difference with students. And it really has been great that they're hearing it from someone outside of our district, and it's something that they're using throughout the country. You can't argue with good research, right? And they're using a lot of Hattie's research, a lot of information that shows what works with schools. And that really is what works with schools, is to work as a team. And that's what we're learning how to do. Really work as a team and to use data to systematically analyze what we're doing every day. So that's really been great. And then we also are having, in our department meetings for math, we really look at the priority standards, and we really dug into the verbs that are in the different standards in math to identify what students should know and what they should be able to do. And that's been really beneficial to hear the math teachers talking about how it looks different, that same strand from 6th grade to 8th grade, and what they need to be able to know differently between grade levels. So having those vertical and horizontal meetings has been really beneficial. So these PLC meetings we're having through Solution Tree, I think that's just the beginning. Then they're going to come back and we're going to kind of share that with the rest of the staff when we have our meetings in August, and continue that process. And that's not a Lowell Middle School initiative, that's a district initiative. So it's exciting for them to hear what they're doing at the elementaries, what they're doing at the high schools, and that was really, I think it was mind-blowing for our teacher leaders, because they got to see it in a different perspective. It wasn't just me coming back and sharing with them, an article or a book that I was learning. It was really a lot bigger than that. So it was really, they really are, it really has been worth it to have Solution Tree work with our teachers. Many of the teachers said they were looking forward to the next session, which was great. They had great feedback. They feel like it was beneficial for them. And when you get a lot of teachers to say that about a PD, you know that you have a winner. Hopefully we'll be able to see that reflected in our PLC meetings next year, and as we continue through the other departments. So that's our first goal, math, and Gina is going to talk to you a little bit about our second goal.
Good evening. So our second goal area is focused on language arts, and again, we're looking at increasing that proficiency by 10% from 55.3 up to 66 by 2025. And we have some work to do, as you'll see, but we're really paying a lot of attention to student-centered learning practices and utilizing very specific data to modify instruction as we go. So some historical iLearn data to share with you. You'll see in the 21-22 school year, we were right around those 50% marks. 6th grade had 52, 7th was at 56, and 8th grade was at 51. You can see 8th grade had pretty significant growth there from 51 up to 57. It is a different group of kids, that isn't the cohort. 7th grade went down by a couple, and then 6th grade rose a bit as well. They're all significantly above that state average. However, it's not where you want to be. It's 50% is 50%, right? So still a lot of work to do. So making progress towards our goal, like we talked about, we want to move that towards that 66%, moving from 52.9 up to eventually that 66, but we were up to that 55.6 and hoping to see it higher in the coming year. This is our region data, very similar to what Terry showed for math. You'll see only Munster and Crown Point are ahead of us in ELA, which I think is great. We beat all of those Lake Central schools, and as a former Indian, I was a little excited to see that myself. So that was kind of cool to see. So yeah, doing pretty well, but it's a tough test, right? Like that iLearn is a tough test. There's no getting around that. It's something that you see statewide. You've got districts that are performing in the 20s and the 30s and even lower than that in some cases. So it's difficult, but we'll get there. So this is my most difficult slide to share with you all. It is our NWEA data growth, and it's ugly. There's no getting around it. I can tell you in looking at it, one of the most shocking areas for me was in that 6th grade, where we see that growth consistently fall from 60 to 55 to 47. I did go back and kind of pull year on year on year data for that growth, and this is kind of an anomaly. They've always hovered between the upper 50s, lower 60%. So we've really dug into what that might have been. In talking to the teachers, they spoke a lot about those cold weather days and those interruptions in the testing as possibly one of the reasons for that. But we're trying to stay away from excuses and focus on progress, which is the purpose of our meetings. One of the areas that we looked into is when you look at this quadrant chart, you have 4 different quadrants, and you want to be in this upper right-hand quadrant, right? High achievement, high growth. That's where you want to live. Our kids are trending in that direction, but we do have some kids who are in that lower left quadrant, low achievement, low growth, and they're kind of pulling. So we need to really focus on those students and figure out what we can do to help move them in that right direction and get them up there, because we're trending in the right direction. And I think that we need to look at what we're doing with intervention strategies, what we're doing with, we're doing a whole curriculum review for English language arts next year, which I think is going to be really helpful. All of the English language arts teams, 6 through 8, have spent an incredible amount of time this year digging into their curriculum and remapping. At every PLC meeting, we've talked about what students can know and what they can be able to do. And we just keep moving in that direction, picking apart standard by standard and unpacking those to see what skills do those kids need to be able to master that standard, because they're so layered, especially in English language arts. You're talking about analyzing and citing text and nonfiction and all of these different varieties of skills in English language arts. That's more than just one skill band, and it's tough. So we've spent a ton of time, and the teams have done a lot of work to really dig into that, and we're going to continue to do that work. So I talked a little bit about what those strategies and interventions are and professional development pieces to move towards that improvement and get out of that and look at much better numbers for next year. Some of the things Mrs. Cruzen talked about is that effective PLC model. Similarly to what Mrs. Cruzen was saying with the solution tree training that she was at, I'm at the elementary ones with those teachers as we're moving towards the intermediate school, and I can tell you that my teachers came away with the exact same feedback. So the investment in the solution tree model is a good one. They all came away universally very excited about that training. They were very pleased. They were all deeply engaged and came away from those meetings with really great feedback. And I ran into one of my teachers in the hallway yesterday, and he said, I've never said before that I'm looking forward to a PD, but I'm really looking forward to our next day together. So they're doing great things. We're continuing to utilize Mind Play with Mrs. Cooksley and our special education teachers. Mrs. Battistini and Mrs. Catellis also use it during their advisory time, but they've been also working on pulling kids for some focused intervention skills during that time as well. Everybody is still implementing the Christina Smeckens playbook lessons. That's across content areas, LA, social studies, and science. And then we're continuing a very intentional focus on high priority standards and really whittling those down to 1 or 2 standards that we're really, really, really focusing on. And as we look ahead, we're going to begin developing very high quality common formative assessments so we can get into that data at early checkpoints as opposed to waiting until we get to like the NWEA. And I'll give it back to Mrs. Cruzen. Communication.
So our third goal was the area of communication. I came into the district right during COVID, and a lot of we were virtual at the time. A lot of our students were doing virtual school, so it became very clear that people just wanted to be informed. So I just reached out to a lot of different people and asked in different school districts what kind of communication works best for you, and I'm trying to intentionally deliver on the areas that people gave me feedback on. So it is really important to have effective communication with all stakeholders. So our goal is to have 85% or more of our respondents say they're satisfied or highly satisfied with the communication that's coming out from the school. So we administered that at the end of the year. The first year it was 71.5% of our responses were a 4 or 5. Last year it was a 72% indicated a score of 4 or 5. So we just continue to increase like the different ways that we communicate with our families. These are some of our strategies. We use Skyward as the primary method for ongoing communication with parents and students. We use our Facebook page. I think it's just a celebratory place to post good things that are going on in our school. A lot of people aren't on Facebook, so we don't really post important information necessarily there, but it's very celebratory. I focus on our monthly newsletter to be very informational and celebratory, and just put everything in there so that it's one document that parents can read with a lot of information. I think it's also very important to engage with your staff. I don't have meetings just to have meetings. I try very hard to be intentional about what I can send out to them in paper or in an email format. So we have a document. It's an ongoing Google Doc, and I put something in there called a compass because it's our focus. It's where we're going, and every important thing that our teachers would possibly need to know, I add to the compass. So it's one place for them to look for every piece of information, and it has been an amazing resource for the teachers. It's been great for me to know exactly where to put it, so I don't have to worry if they're going to read it or not. They know every Friday it comes out. They're responsible for the information, and I hear them saying, "Yeah, it was in the compass," things like that. So that's our primary mode of information to staff, and that goes to all teachers and all staff. We also have a group that is doing the Red and Black. It's an ECA, which is a student-generated newspaper. They don't do it every month, but we have students that work on it after school with Mrs. Molaski and Mrs. Van Dersen, and they publish different editions, and it's really fun. If you get a chance to read that, it's on the students' desktop when they publish. We also have added weekly guidance meetings in our office. So I just can't tell you how much our office staff has changed over the 3 years that I've been here. We have great staff members, and like these two right here that I'm going to talk about tonight, they'll just brag on. They've been an amazing addition to our staff. So we get together with Carrie Wearsby, who's not here, but and we have meetings every Monday. We talk about students. We talk about important things that we need to focus on, but it's very student-centered, where we need to provide help with families, with students, who needs to be a priority, who do we need to check in with at our morning team meetings. So that's been a great addition for communication. And then teachers and administrators, we really try to send out good news to parents. We make good news phone calls. We ask teachers to do good news phone calls, and we track those. And then the LMS news, Mr. Stolb does an advisory class that students apply to be a part of. And they do a weekly video with our just celebrations and information and things that are coming up, events, and they publish that. It's teaching students some creation, some communication skills. You talk about being a strong communicator. They're learning all of those skills that are important, that they're going to be able to use when they get into the work setting. So those are all the different ways that we communicate with our stakeholders. And then attendance is not really a part of our school improvement plan, but it's a huge priority right now. So Mrs. Seif is going to talk a little bit about attendance. It has to be a priority at our school, but it's a priority across the country. It has been, our attendance has become abysmal, as you'll see.
So part of my job, besides working with discipline, is working with attendance. As you can see, the attendance rate has dropped. I don't know if you can go to the next. So at the state level, it's about 61% attendance rate. Ours is about 53%. Some of the reasons that that's going on, can we go to the next one? Anxiety has really impacted our students ever since COVID. It has been a big reason why students are not coming to school. They have a lot of anxiety. There's a change in the core beliefs about school. School is no longer the top priority at that point. A change in accountability, why students are coming to school, as parents are not holding them accountable sometimes, and so there's been a change and shift in why students are not attending to school, as well as vacation. So some things that we're doing to help these reasons, we have those weekly guidance meetings where we're talking about those chronic student absences. How can we help those students? We're starting attendance contracts with students who are habitual truants to first and second period especially. to try to get them to school, giving them rewards. You know, we start with a daily reward and try to get them there, talk with their families and try to motivate them to come to school, and then we progress it and make it more of a weekly reward, and then eventually we kind of release the contract, and they've been successful this school year. It's been great to see that. So that's where we're offering those positive incentives that are progressive. We also have a lot of ongoing parent communication. I'm always calling home, talking about the attendance things with parents and saying, what's going on, how can I help, what can we do to support? And that's when you get to really know the parents and create those positive relationships, and they're calling you, they're calling in more. Sometimes it's just, I didn't know I had to call in to call off my student. So working with them and making those positive relationships with the families. Making learning engaging and student-centered. If they love it here, they want to be here, they're going to make sure that they're going to attend here. And then maintaining that safe and positive environment. So I also work with Allie a lot on those things, and she's going to forget them.
So I just want to say, like, we were here in the summer and we were talking about like hiring a social worker, and we were looking for a quality candidate, and it kind of opened our eyes to looking at maybe somebody with a different background. Allie is just the best of all worlds, I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. She's been the best thing for our school, for our students, for our staff. She has been like single-handedly just amazing for increasing our students, just that positive in the office. Kids, she's just been amazing working with students that have any weaknesses in student discipline, student behavior. She gives them rewards. They're excited to come earn them. She takes them down and plays basketball with them. I mean, just they love it, and they're always smiling, and I feel like it has made such a huge difference. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about how the student support behavior specialist, that's her background, combined with that social work degree, has impacted our school environment. So she's going to talk about it.
So I'm going to be crying while I talk to you guys. But thank you guys for listening today. I really appreciate it. I know it's a lot of words we're throwing at you all, so thank you. So yes, my certification is a board certified behavior analyst. Typically that role is in more therapeutic environments, but it's starting to come into schools a little bit more just because behaviors are also increasing in schools. So my undergraduate degree is in social work, my master's is in applied behavior analysis, and then I completed my certification. So just going to talk to you a little bit about what it looks like bringing that into the school and what we've done so far this school year. So I want to start before I say these numbers, that these numbers were entered before spring break, like the Friday going into spring break, and they've changed drastically since then too. So just know that they're higher than what we have on here right now. So we've done a lot of personal safety screening so far this year. Of course, that is when we have a concern come to us about a student's safety with themselves. So whether it's a threat to harm themselves, or a student refers them, or a teacher brings something to our concern, or a parent even. Before spring break, we had done 50 of those, and like I said, that has increased since spring break as well. And then our school safety screenings, we typically do those when there's a concern about threat to harm to others. So whether that's the school community as a whole, a specific person, those fall into the school safety screenings. You can see that we've definitely done less of those, but we've still done 12 this school year. That number has not increased since we've come back to spring break, but we've done at minimum 62 total screenings this year. And I know everybody did a lot of work last year to start to really structure that process, which was huge for me coming in. It was helpful to have a structure to walk into. I've also started this year some skill acquisition groups, because we noticed that a lot of our students that either are getting in trouble for things or end up with personal safety screenings or any other mental health concerns, a lot of time there's a skill deficit too. It's not just that they don't want to do well or that they don't want to make friends, it's more of a skill deficit that they need assistance with. So this year I've started with 3 separate groups. I really hope to increase that more next year, but most of them are 6th graders at this point, because 6th grade is hard. So they've really benefited from this. But the first group is an executive functioning skills group. This group focuses mostly on like time management, focus, impulse control, task initiation, planning and organization, those types of things. The Lunch Bunch social skills group, that's for our kids that struggle more with those social interactions, have a hard time making friends, are a little bit more isolated. We've started a group for them, and that's during their lunch group, or during their lunch once a week. All of these groups are once per week. And then our last group is AIM. It's an emotional regulation skills, and that stands for accept, identify, move, and that's based on acceptance and commitment therapy. But that's a group that works on emotional regulation skills with our kids. Each of the people icons below just represent how many kids are involved in that group at the moment. Then we've been working heavily, kind of like what Mallory started talking about, lots of PBIS Tier 2 interventions. So this is what I spend a lot of time trying to bring to the school to support our kids. So it's not just that they're ending up in trouble for things. I'm trying to help bolster them so that way they don't get to that point in the first place. We start with check and check out. That's one that we have. It's more common among a lot of different schools, but it's there for increasing positive interactions with adult staff and trying to get some type of motivation for them to be able to meet general school-wide expectations each day, and they're not responding to the universal levels. So that's why we put them in the check and check out. Some other kids we've moved towards behavior contract, which is a little bit more structured and a little bit more formal in the sense of a student signs off on it. They say, this is my goal. If I meet my goal, then I get this reward. If I don't meet my goal, this is my consequence for that as well. And we have that discussion with them based off of their individual preferences, and then teachers rate them both for the behavior contract and check out. The teachers rate them on their performance in class. Lastly, we've been doing the attendance contracts. We've really been picking those up more lately because of how much of a struggle attendance has been for our kids. I'm a big proponent of you don't have to think school is the best place ever, but I don't want you to hate it and be uncomfortable here. So I try to find ways that we can try to associate school with positive things. So a lot of times if you're making it to school by 8:15, 5 days, 3 days, whatever it is that you're struggling with at the time, then I'll take you to the gym with a friend. We'll go play during advisory, do something like that, or a homework pass, or something that's motivating for them so they see we're trying to be on the same team with them. And associated with that, I will review these every week if they're behavior contracts, which are weekly. I'll review daily if they're needed for check and check out. But I review these and then update parents and teachers each week. Then I typically try to graph those so that way this is a Tier 2 intervention, so if the Tier 2 intervention isn't effective, that's when we would start to look at Tier 3, and that is why I take the data so seriously, so we have that to base it on. And then lastly, something I want to go over with real quick is just what the resources have looked like so far this year. We've done one. I know that's not a very big number. It's just one. But for the resource fair, the Teen Health Summit is our first time doing it this year. We would love to have had a bigger turnout than we had, definitely. But it was, I think, enlightening for all of us to figure out really what resources are available in the area and how can we best support the families in Lowell and in the surrounding community. We have 20 students right now and still several in the pipeline that are being enrolled in and participating in Crown Counseling, who comes to meet with students during the school day weekly, some of them more than once per week. And then we also have 79 students right now in our Buddy Bag program, which works with the Community Help Network in Crown Point that provides food assistance to families and make sure that they have additional income or additional financial assistance for groceries at home during the off days. I included that pie chart just so you could see it. Kind of got cut off because I posted it funny, so I apologize. But the pie chart shows when we have a student come to talk with either myself or Mrs. Wearsby, what they're requesting to discuss or what we're discussing while they're with us. And as you can see, the vast majority are peer conflict and peer concerns. The second to that is personal mental health, and then following that are family concerns. So we definitely have some themes in our counseling department. Lastly, I wanted to share with you on the bottom our data from the school year. Again, this has increased since spring break, but throughout the duration of the school year, we've had 1,688 total student sessions, and that's with myself. So Mrs. Wearsby has another vast number of those as well. And then we have a counseling request form that all of our students can use. So from their devices, they're able to submit at any time a request to talk with me or Mrs. Wearsby, whether it's about any of these topics up here, if it's about academics and they have a question about that, whether it's related to a student concern for another kid. And then they submit those counseling request forms, and then we call them down whenever we're able to discuss it with them. And we've had 645 of those serviced before spring break, so that's again increased since then. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the peer mediation piece. You could see based on this pie chart that peer conflict is a big issue for us, as it is for all middle schools, especially 6th grade, I think is a big piece of that. But I'm a big proponent that if we don't address the conflict, then a lot of times it gets worse and things become bigger issues. And I mean, we attended a safety training today in Crown Point that talked a lot about how grievances with other peers can result in school violence and things like that down the road. So I take it very seriously, Mrs. Sipe and I take it very seriously, and a lot of times we do these together, the peer mediations, where we have 2 or more students together that are having a conflict. You both have the chance to share your perspective on it, both have the chance to apologize to each other if you feel that you need to, and then we develop a game plan for how we're going to move forward from that so it doesn't escalate further. I have had a couple of those, so I didn't put them on here, but I thought it was important to note that we have had a couple of those between staff and students too, which I think is a really cool skill for the kids to be able to learn. I can address a conflict with one of my teachers in an appropriate way that's respectful, but still let my voice be heard. think that is all. Thank you.
So lastly, we have one of our clubs that is here tonight to share a little bit about the the arcade club. And our Inspire vision, they just exemplify so many things on here. They show that they are problem solvers, that they're next level ready learners, they're learning coding, they can successfully communicate with others, and they're independent thinkers, they're risk takers. So I'm really excited for them to share with you a little bit about our arcade club. We're going to start with the video, and it will explain a little bit about it. And then we have some students and some teachers here today.
So one day, I was in Mr. Schuler's classroom, and he told me about the grant letter he approved for an arcade club. And I asked him if he even knew how to do that, and he said no. So I was asking him, I was like, so you asked for $1,000 and didn't know what to do with it? So, they're all talking.
Yes, I didn't know how to build this thing or do any of this before the whole thing started. And when Colby came and he asked me about that, it was exciting. It's kind of something that we try to model in my class. It's okay to fail. And so if we had not been able to do any of this, if we had not figured it out, it's okay to take a risk, and it's okay for things not to succeed.
I answered question 3, and I felt really happy. I felt really happy when we got it done because it ended up looking really good. I was so happy that I got to make the sign. So I was really happy with the way it turned out. And I like who I work with because
If I were to invite somebody to arcade club, I would probably tell them that it's really not that hard, and it's kind of just talking to your friends. And I mean, the more you do it, the more it's fun. So, yeah.
Sensory experience, I feel like if you're into coding or building, you like it. The arcade club also makes you feel like a sense of accomplishment once you finish like a part something from the first time.
I think someone should join our arcade club because you can make games in our arcade club. I would invite somebody to join our arcade club because number 1, it's really fun. Number 2, it's a unique experience that really no other club offers. When we were finished with this, I just felt excited at this point. And when we put our games on this, it ran really smoothly, and I enjoyed it a lot.
My name is Nicholas Michaelesco, and what I think is so special about this club, it allows you to embrace your game development and building techniques.
I think that my ability to be able to program something new and good was like really helpful in our arcade club. I don't really have the opportunity to use that like anywhere else.
I already choose a pathway for high school, and also I joined this club after I chose my pathway. I most likely would have chosen a coding class, something like this.
Hi, my name is Glenn, and the reason that I want other people to know about the arcade club and want other people to join the arcade club is because it is interesting and it's fun and it keeps your interest, but it also imposes challenges and allows you to kind of they work on things that you also don't get to. We don't have a whole lot of folks that love coding, love computers, love that sort of thing. And I think it does kind of give off the challenge, but it also is, fun. It's more than just computers.
Well, I'll introduce myself again. I'm Jeremy Schuler. So I teach 7th grade computer science. I'll bring up some of these guys here in just a minute. But first, thank you guys for letting us show off some of the stuff that the kids have done. I want to thank as well, while we're here, the Education Foundation. They did pay for all of the materials, which was, they were approved up to $1,000. We were able to use Mr. Burnt over at the high school, who actually cut out all of the wood for us and teamed with us, and so everything that they put together was also kind of a collaboration coming out of the high school. And as well, Mr. Johansson and Mr. Stoll worked with us. Mr. Johansson teaches some students here at the tech desk and runs a lot of our tech stuff here at the middle school. Mr. Stoll was our 8th grade computer science teacher. So what we did, this is kind of a dream that was born out of my 7th grade computer science class. We build physical computing systems. As part of that, we have to teach coding, so we use a block-based coding, and the students make video games. And I've always wanted a place that would be a platform for the students to have a chance to play their games. And it really did pay off. In the end, to watch the students get to play their games that they actually coded and designed and made all of the artwork was really something. And so that they had a part in it. And as I got started, I did ask Mrs. Cruzen, though, and I just need to say thank you, because the question was, do you really want a video arcade cabinet floating around your school for the next several years? Because it is like a magnet in my class. Students will go to it if it's on. If the lights are on, they'll go to it. But it's fun to try to be the example for Inspire. I get to spend a lot of time with every area of the school as a building tech leader, 8th grade peer mentors. I get to take 8th graders up to 6th grade as a building tech leader. I get to kind of see all of the teachers. And this club kind of is an example of stuff that happens everywhere in the middle school. There's a lot of collaboration. You can see Mr. Johansson's students' projects that are sitting out over here in the other side of the media center. And so there's a lot of this type of thing that's going on. And so it's fun to get to see what the students are capable of doing with the support that the school is able to put behind them. I'm going to bring the guys up real quick. So if you guys want to come up, invite our students up. I don't want to make them all speak, but I told them that I would ask a couple of them just to hear about their experience. And so I'm going to ask Nick first. I think they've shoved you forward anyway in good fashion. But just wanted to ask you about your experience and what you appreciated. I think you said something about hands-on. So you want to go?
The experience was one of the best things I've ever experienced at school, and a lot of kids don't really learn through books and just computers. Like me, you can ask him, he's my teacher. I don't really like to do a lot of work. But with this, I was doing the most I could because how hands-on it was, and we got to build stuff, we got to paint stuff, like you said, make our own games. It was very, I'm just going to say fun and not like school.
All right. As well, I was going to ask Sean about his favorite part, and I think I know what it is, but what do you think is your favorite part?
My favorite part was probably designing the sign, because I got to make the sign with my dad. It was really fun, and it's a very amazing thing to get $1,000 for video games, especially after our school worked so hard to block them on our computers. But it was a very fun experience that you don't get to do all the time. So it was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Sean. Real quick, if you guys could please say your names real loud, just all the way down.
My name is Nicholas.
My name is Gavin Maselli.
Levi Schuler.
My name is also Nicholas.
And I'm Sean.
And the story that we were relating there at the beginning of the video, Colby, who was telling the story, he's one of the peer mentors, and as well, he was in my class, and he was asking about this process, and he was saying, I didn't know that you knew how to do this, Mr. Schuler. whenever he was seeing me fill out all of the grant work, and he found out that it was at the time going to be up to $1,200 to get this entire thing done. And I said, well, I don't know how to do this. And he just couldn't believe that I would ask for $1,200. But it is one of the things that we model. I even give a little speech at the end of every semester to my students as they're leaving, and I ask them to remember all the times that things messed up and just remind them that you're failures, and that's okay. And I ask them to go home and tell their parents, Mr. Schuler today told us we're failures, and he said to tell you that you are too, and create that conversation, because I think it's a valuable conversation. If we're going to be risk takers, if we're going to look to inspire, we're not going to succeed every single time. And so it's okay to put yourself out there. It's okay to try to succeed, and sometimes we make it happen. So guys, appreciate what you did. Good job. And as well, thank you, Mr. Johansson. He didn't stand up, but we'll let him just wave. All right. So, thank you guys. You guys can see.
So thank you for allowing us a lot of time to share a little bit about our school. We are really proud of the things that go on here, so we appreciate this time to talk to the board and all of our guests today. Do you have any questions you would like to ask us?
Any questions? I real quick want to say, Jeremy, I wrote down in the video it's okay to fail, it's okay to take risks in this message you just shared, and it jumped out at me because Titus last night was doing the track meet and did his first time with the high jump, and he failed and failed and failed, and he came over and he said, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore, I don't know what I'm doing. And we had to have that whole conversation at home of it's okay to fail. And I'm so excited to hear that that message is being pushed home and throughout our schools and to our students, because it's so important, because that's what builds them up to succeed later and take those risks. So thank you for sharing that message with these kids. All right. Regular business consent items. Approve the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, March 14th, 2024.
I'll approve the minutes from March 14th.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 2, approve the minutes of the special meeting held on Thursday, March 24th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the special meeting.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Approve payroll and claims.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll and claims.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, personnel. Approve the personnel report dated Thursday, April 11th, 2024.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 2, approve the Lowell High School principal contract beginning July 1st, 2024 for Mrs. Doherty, who we met previous to this session. So do I have a motion to open?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, welcome. Oh, yes, sorry about that. You guys are free to head home if you'd like. I know it's getting late with those that came with kids. Thank you for coming. Okay, personnel number 3, approve the request from Mrs. Brandy Muha, principal at Oak Hill Elementary School, to transfer additional days from the balance of her accrued sick time while an employee at Tri Creek School Corporation to cover the remaining days on her 23-24 contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, business operations, Chartwell's school dining presentation.
Hello, good evening. My name is Amy Kerrigan. I'm the area director for Chartwell's, and I oversee your area as well as a little bit of Illinois and Iowa.
I'm Joseph Parrott, and I'm the director of food service here on site. Outside of that, we also have Nate White, who's the executive chef you've all met prior. And we also have Julie Boyer, who is the Tri Creek side of the food service operations. Beyond that, we also have Brandon McCarthy, faces you don't get to see here so often, but still support us nonetheless. I know all these people personally. Brandon was actually on the team that came to open Tri-Creek. He helped out at the high school. Haley Quaddy as well. She comes in all the time. She's a dietetics side of things. And then Amy LaFranc, field marketing director, and Amy Kerrigan, who you've just met. Outside of those people as well, I didn't know these people were showing up tonight, but we also have our own team. I've got a lot of my leads have shown up in the audience, and I thought that was sweet of them to come and support. But we've got Heather, if you can stand up and say hi. Heather Baker, she's at Lake Prairie. We've got Gloria Thomas, she's over at Oak Hill. We've got Tanya Tillery, she's here at the middle school. And I thought I saw Sue, but she had to leave. Okay. Sue Hillbridge is at Three Creeks, and the only one not in attendance today is Jen Benson, who couldn't make it. But I really appreciate them being here to hear my spiel.
So just a little bit about Chartwell's. Kind of a brief overview of where we are. 700 partnerships, 45 of those are here in Indiana. Indiana has it's a little bit more than that now, probably about 700 Indiana associates. So our three big pillars that we really like to focus on are our associate support, student engagement, and innovation. So a little bit about our associates, which Joe will talk a little bit more, but really try to hit these three buckets of attract, grow, and retain. We do that through some employment engagement opportunities.
Yeah, and what we've got here are a couple pictures of some of the things that we have done, but one of the major things we like to do every year and coming up is what we call a Lunch Hero Day. It's a nationally recognized food service recognition of the employees. While we try to recognize everyone on our own, this is where we try to remind everyone else in the community as well how hard that all the ladies work, and men. There's just not a lot of men, to be honest. But so some of the things we've done outside of that, we did have non-alcoholic margarita nights with all the kitchens and all that stuff, and had some fun there. And we did put together charcuterie boards and things like that for the staff to take home. My daughter picked out some of the jellies. She bought elderberry jam because she thought that sounded fancy. And she's right, it was very good. Outside of that, just the day-to-day fun things, anything we can try to do to engage the employees and remind them that we are here to be a team and a family working towards the same goal. It's easy to get lost when you're running through every day on what the purpose is and what we do. But I think, all my leads being here, they're a tight-knit family, and it's a lot of fun to work with them.
We have a program that we give back to the associates. They draw, when they can give a note out to each other, like a kudos card, and we draw that on a monthly basis to give them a gift card for rewarding them for a job well done. So, it's skipping a slide, but I've only been over the account for a couple of months, so as I came in and kind of learned the account, learned where we were, looked at kind of where are we going to go forward, and I'm sorry the slide's not here, but really want to focus on our employment engagement as well as our student engagement. Give ourselves a little more social media presence, both for your parents groups and as well as outside folks. Diversification of our menus. We're working through a program right now, Student Choice, and Joe's going to share with you about that. Showcase it today at the middle school, but just trying to diversify our menus to touch all those students. And then the student voice, and I'll talk a little bit about that here a little bit later. Now
All right. So a little bit about what we've got going on in the upcoming future. But in March, we were trying to focus on just gathering feedback from students. What do you want? We did that in smaller groups at the high school. We really focused in on there's a coffee program we've got running at the high school now, student run. We kind of use that as our focus group since they have the food service interest as well as they kind of represent a lot of the different areas of the high school and the different populations. So in talking to them, they asked for more authentic flavors. When we asked them what authentic flavors they wanted, they didn't really have a good idea, but that's where we step in and say, how about this one, So coming up, one of the concepts we came up with is called Revolution Noodle. So instead of just a generic Asian station, we can expand that and get something more ramen specific, something with more authentic flavors, and try that out and just test it a little bit. And if they like it, we'll expand upon that. But we're always looking to try to find out what it is that they want and give them those options to try new things in that way. So using those focus groups, some of the things that we discovered is that they like some of the programs that we're running, they just want more of it. So some of the things we'll talk about upcoming in the presentation will be related to that. April is through our Discovery Kitchen program, which what we usually do here, that's generally geared more toward an elementary setting with the Discovery Kitchens. And so the benefits of composting and recycling is the topic of the month. There's not a lot of recipes I can put forward that would be towards that topic, but it is an important topic nonetheless, and one that, for students of that age to learn the benefits of how they can impact the environment and help, farmers, help, the community grow the foods we need is a good topic to learn on. Upcoming in May, we have National School Lunch Hero Week, which we talked about a little bit here. That's going to be our focus then. And through working with Dana some, our focus during that is not just going to be on the associates so much as well, but as I said, celebrating it more out in the community. I can go to my staff and tell them, hey, you're doing a good job, but getting the community involvement piece of that, we find that to be a little more important. So we'll focus a lot more on that coming up this month. And then ongoing after that, monthly Cheers Awards and associate engagement, like we've already talked about. Cheers Awards are the things that we do where we share, and you're talking about, we try to recognize the staff. What we've done here at Tri Creek is try to take that a step further and engage the employees to do it for each other as well. So they've got the little cards where they can give each other a cheers, and we've noticed that Lake Prairie and some of the other schools, the students have caught on to it and started writing cheers for the staff. So at Lake Prairie, one of my favorites that I read was one of our employees has extremely pink hair. She has dyed it, so you see a lot of cards for the pink-haired lady. I always get a tickle when I come in and read that. But so from those cards, we ask that they turn those in, and we can award with gift cards or whatever it be. But the point is that it is self-driven, that they are rewarding each other at the same time.
So talking about our student engagement programs, we really want to ignite. I think it probably goes to some of your Aspire. You were talking about earlier, and engage and just experiential. So student engagement program, Joe talked a little bit about Discovery Kitchen. It's our nutritional education program, so we hope to teach kids about the importance of food and implementing that and giving the opportunity to experience it.
All right, so what you see here, some pictures of an actual Discovery Kitchen taking place. More than one, actually. So up on the top, we were identifying all the various types of cheeses in the world and how many things you can do with milk and dairy. Okay, so we had flags from different countries and what those cheeses were, and having the students come up and name the country on the flag first off, then talk about the cheese and all the different types of cheese, and it's just as informative as possible while you still have a cafeteria full of every single student at once. Trying to keep them controlled is a challenge, so keeping it simple and educational, and then using that information after the Discovery Kitchen to expand and put that information on our NutriSlice app so they can take simple recipes at home or through our monthly newsletter, put some recipes on there as well, so they can then take what they learned and say, I heard about this today, Mom, and then Mom gets the lucky job of trying to figure out how to make that at home with their kids, but it is a lot of fun. And on that note, in the second pictures down there, we had done some things with what we call plant power, and this was when they were learning about the benefit of bees and insects and pollinators and how that helps farmers. So I went out into the field behind Lake Prairie, dug up a bunch of dirt, put it in a bowl with some water, and mixed it with wildflower seeds. And some of the kids got to get their hands in there. We picked the kids who were birthday people who had something recognition coming up and allowed them to actually physically get their hands in the dirt and make a big mess. But all of the kids went home that day with seed bombs that they could then go home and get mom or dad to tell them where they could throw it in the yard and grow wildflower seeds for all of the bees to come and pollinate throughout the year. Right. So after that, on the topic of Discovery Kitchen, this is a monthly calendar of what we plan to do. And on the subject of talking to people, they just want more of it. This is one of the areas I think they just want more of. We try to time ourselves out so we can both run operations and then also run these various programs in each of the elementary schools. So we had tried to pick an elementary school per month and do that. I think we're just going to step that up and try to do every elementary school as much as we possibly can. and really get it out there, because that engagement is something that has been asked for.
So this is our exciting award-winning Global Eats. It's a trip around the world where students can taste authentic flavors. We've teamed up with dietitians and celebrity chefs to develop National School Lunch Program certified recipes, and they can taste menu items from around the world, Korea, Mexico, the Caribbean, and we continue to expand upon that. A little bit more about our programs and student engagement.
So programs like Student Choice can be run in just about any school setting. We tend to run them in the higher grade levels, so high schools and middle schools. It's being run this week in the middle school for the first time. Some of the students that were in the audience were some of my best customers. They come to that. Like you can tell, they like to talk, I guess, but they were asking me a lot of questions, so that was good. What the idea being is every day we pick one of our stations that they haven't had. So in this particular week, we ran Roost, which is, think of it as like a style of Chick-fil-A almost. There's chicken sandwiches with all the different flavors and toppings, and they can build that when they come through the line. But we give them samples of that on day one. Then day two, we tried Bok Choy, which is an Asian-inspired station. Okay, so we did different stir fries with rice and little sample cuts. And we also did a barbecue station. We picked those because students had said that these were types of foods that they would like to see in the middle school setting. Now on Friday, after they sampled all that through the week, on Friday they're all going to come in and vote on which one they like the most. And we'll have a big announcement on what the winner is, and we will feature that for a month, 2 months, something, and then we'll repeat the process all over again. So they get some involvement, they get to tell us what they like and what they don't like, but it's also still guided towards reality. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll walk up to a student and say, "What do you want?" and they say steak. I can't give you prime rib, but we can guide it towards healthy options and guide it towards things that we know they will like, and then it's still their decision. So that's the intent behind all that. Global Eats is, as Andy was talking about, that is something we have started in the high school and have been doing since October. It's similar in a way to Student Choice, only it's a little more refined. You tried some of the things in the past, and we've had samples, and you have beef that has green olives in it. It's probably not going to work in an elementary setting. However, it tastes amazing, and and it's gone very well. So what we've done there is similar. We try out a different thing. The month before we're going to run Global Eats, we sample the country we're going to go to. So our most recent one was Caribbean cuisine. Before that, we've done Asian cuisine, we've done China, we've done Mexico. We haven't quite done Indian yet, but I think that's a hurdle we'll jump next year because that's a little more challenging with the flavors. But it's been really great. So every time we do that, and then on Thursdays on the coming month, every Thursday is Global Eats Day on our Create Station at the high school. And they know that that's going to be there, and they can anticipate what it is they're going to have. And then Mood Boost is upcoming. We're going to run that in our elementary schools right now. You can run it in all the other schools, but we're going to start it in our elementaries. And the idea behind that is there are food groups that help you cognitively. They help your energy level. So let's identify those and educate the students towards that. Hey, if you eat your carrots today, it might help you on your test. Hey, if and then here's some recipes you can try at home. Let's try this smoothie out, something. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely with the icons and things, you can see they're geared in this way towards the younger crowd with the little monster guys and all that. But we're really looking forward to trying that, and Chef Nate's working on the recipes right now, so we'll hit the ground running.
So part of our student engagement is gaining feedback from both students and our principals as well. So surveys, we've not quite run just yet. And our principal scorecards, I think we have implemented those. Haven't gotten great participation just yet, but we'll continue to strive to get that feedback. Chat Back is a digital app that would allow the high school students most likely to give us feedback. We have not launched that yet, but looking into the future for students to be able to give us real feedback on a daily basis. NutriSlice is our online digital menu board. They can give us feedback through that as well. They can type in a message, kind of like Yelp, and give us feedback. Student Choice is one of the programs that we're running, but it's also an opportunity for students to choose what they want to eat. So it's another way for us to get their feedback. and see that they get excited about what they've chosen to eat, and then that's what's on the menu. Joe talked a little bit about the advisory council and the focus groups that we've done. We do that through our wellness committees as well as our focus groups. And I think you've met with the high school, maybe not the middle school just yet, so we'll continue to do that throughout the year. So just looking at the numbers, this was July through February when we put this together initially. Just want to the enrollment has changed from last year to this year, so the numbers are somewhat skewed, but it's a good story to tell that our breakfast counts are up, our lunch counts are up, the free and reduced is also up as well, but we're up about 4% year over year. That is it for us. Y'all have any questions?
I know my middle schooler that's here is the pickiest eaters. Most of the time doesn't even sit in the lunchroom. And he tried the barbecue. He actually said he tried, I think did you have 3 different types?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, he mentioned like, I thought 2 or 3 different, and he said he loved them. And they were really fantastic, so. That's high praise. Yeah, my son never tells me any details, and I heard about the barbecue too.
Well, that's
oh wow!
If I had to pick between prepping barbecue or Indian food, I would pick barbecue. I'll say that fun, by the way.
I don't have kids in school, but I'm interested in the barbecue too.
Well, it
We
seems
would
like
love for
school
you all
lunch
to
has
come out and
become
taste the food sometime as well.
school lunch has become more than just getting our kids fed and back to school, and
Yeah.
this is really good to see that we've have these programs for them. So thank you.
I would
for
like
this.
an invitation to some of these dates to see, you know.
Absolutely.
Put my official taste test approval on.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2 is to approve the Tri-Creek School Corporation Food Service Management Company renewal with Chartwell's School Dining for the 24-25 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve Chartwell's. Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, was that the one? Oh, no. Approve the purchase of furniture from KI Furniture for our Lowell Middle School, the North Star Building at the high school, and the administrative space at Lowell High School.
I'll make a motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Number 4, approve the proposed change order number 009 for the Lake Prairie Elementary Classroom Addition Project to provide an east parking lot addition.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed change order number 009.
Second.
Okay, Chris is here. Do you want to come quickly give us, anybody have any questions on it? You want to give us a little rundown on that?
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening. Chris Lucheski with the Skillman Corporation. First off, any specific questions on that one before we get into a little bit of detail? There is about 85 feet of parking lot extension to the south. We've done tests with buses, with vehicles in the way, and buses trying to, reroute that obstacle, and everything works well. There's also a light pole in that proposal that needs to be relocated. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I'll jump a little bit ahead. Both change orders are heavy with soil remediation and soil fill. But the topography is in such to where we need to fill it. That is about 85% of that, of both change orders. So
Okay.
both hand in hand, this one and the 5 to 8 school.
Will this add bus parking? Is it just to extend the circle?
It does add a few spaces, 4, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That parking lot has always been real tight to turn around those big buses.
Yeah.
So any additional space we can get, the better.
Is that gonna affect, that won't affect the field that they're
No.
backed up and all that?
Right, no, it will not. Good point.
Do you have a question,
Are you guys lime stabilizing that?
No, no need for it. As of right now, no need. So we took some early proctor tests and there's really no need for it. So once we achieve sub-base elevation, asphalt, stone, sub-base, we'll get with Jason and we'll have a third-party testing company take a look at it and send it into the lab and see. Obviously, we'll do proof rolling, and if we do see some pumping into the soil, then we'll go through that process.
I saw a local company on the concrete side of that, so that was nice to see.
CNS, yeah.
Mhm, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, don't go far. In the next item too. All in favor for approving the change order at Lake Prairie?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, approve the proposed change order number 0016 for the Lowell Middle School grade 5 through 8 improvement project to provide an extended drive from the southwest to the north drive aisle. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve change order 0016.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, thank you. So that one, there was an alternate bid associated with this that wasn't selected at the time. So what this is to relocate the road, the service road from southwest back up to north, further away from the building. There is demolition involved. There's some sanitary and storm lines that we need to relocate as well. So this is just to clear access around the south elevation of the middle school.
And again, this is for future considerations of expanding the building or adding some additional modifications so that we wouldn't have to add that at the other time. This is
That's right.
cost effective to do it at this time.
That's
Are we
right.
not going as far south as we originally thought?
We are.
Okay.
We are to accommodate for the future addition.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. It doesn't look like that in this drawing, but it
Yeah.
would just be not.
And again, on this one, folks, this one is heavier in fill, soil material fill than the Lake Prairie change.
So this was, we were gonna put a road there anyways, but we're pushing it out farther in the event that next construction phase, we add on with the field house. So that we're not tearing up a road we already put in a year or two before.
I don't know, why does it not look like that on here?
It's about 175 feet off of the building now.
I was like, wait a minute, that does not look right. This looks right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? You guys ready to vote? Okay. So we're going to vote to approve the proposed change order for Lowell Middle School. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
You can go home now.
You can. We still have a list.
You can stay.
Okay, number 6, approve the purchase of Apple iPads for students and staff usage through a combination of funding from the Common School Fund and General Obligation Bond Funding. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion and a second? And did you want to tell us anything?
I typically come to the board twice a year for permission to use the Common School Fund loan for technology purchases, which is a low-cost 1% loan. This year is a unique situation in that they only offered one of these loans this year. So Dana and I have worked together to come up with a combination of funding to be able to do our replacements for student devices this year. One of the really exciting opportunities that we have is that with the addition of the intermediate school, we now have the opportunity to change our typical device refresh cycle, which was we were purchasing for 4 grade levels each year. We can now cut that down to 3 grade levels each year. So students in grades 1, 5, and 9 will get their devices moving forward. They'll keep them for 4 years, and then they get them when they move on to the next level. This year, in order to get us onto that cycle, I'm asking permission to be able to utilize funding for 6 grade levels. I'm sorry, 4 grade levels, not seventh.
And it fell out of my
No,
I'm just like,
four grade levels, which we expect that to be our incoming fifth graders, sixth graders, seventh graders, and then our ninth graders. And so by doing that, we will have all of our middle school students on the same device, the same iPad device. We still have our eighth graders will still have their MacBooks for one more year. Along with that will be our 10th graders and our 11th and 12th graders next year. We are required to keep some of those devices due to the funding source that we utilized to get those a few years ago. There was some federal funding available. But at the end of next year, we can sell those devices off and start to move away from the MacBooks fully. So that would be just this year that we would do 4 grade levels, but moving forward, we'd be looking at 3 grade levels as a cost savings measure. With that, the devices that we would be taking back, one of those would be our current 6th grade students. We will be able to take those devices down to, that would be our 2nd grade students currently, next year's 3rd graders. They will be able to hold on to those devices for another 2 years until they get to intermediate school. And the good news is those devices have 2 years of insurance on them. So our families will still be covered, and at our elementary level, we'll basically be down to 1 grade level that does not have insurance on it. So great savings opportunity for our families.
Lots of wins.
One last item with that is that we did get a lot of feedback this year regarding iPads. Kevin and I have done some work with our secondary principals to determine do we feel like we're still going in the right direction by continuing with iPads. We've talked quite a bit about some of the opportunities we have with those, as well as I've taken some feedback, and I've got feedback from some of our board members, from some of our teachers, parents about some of the, and students about some of the things they don't like about their current iPads. So the devices that we're requesting to purchase have larger screens, more memory, and most importantly, different keyboard cases that are much more like what you would see in a laptop or a Chromebook. So great feedback that's been shared with all on that. But we think that with those changes, in addition to some of the opportunities that we have with some professional development and just some of the great things that our iPads can do with student creation, we think we have a winning program that we're going to continue to move forward with. So with your permission, we'd like to go ahead and move forward with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions?
What's a cart-based iPad?
I'm sorry?
What's a cart-based iPad?
So what we're looking at is the possibility at kindergarten to have those, rather than having those devices go home with students daily, because of the limited usage at that level. A lot of schools keep those in carts. Students still have access to them throughout the day. They still have a device assigned to them, but typically they don't go home. And that cuts down on wear and tear. And so the expectation is that as we start to get into that regular cycle of 1, 5, and 9, we'll be able to take some of those devices if they're still in good shape and the resale value is decent on them. We can move those down to kindergarten and not have to replace those every couple of years. We might get 5, 6 years out of them and really be able to utilize those a little bit better.
Are they currently on a cart for kindergarten?
They're not. Every student takes theirs home currently.
Good. I like that little bit of detachment for the
What does that
kindergartners.
look like in the case of like a unplanned e-learning day due to weather?
Well, that's one of the things that we have to work out and kind of talk through, and that, you know, as we've had discussions with some of our kindergarten, first grade teachers and talking about the types of activities they do on those days, because we don't have some of the same requirements that we had years ago with e-learning days and what those days had to look like. There might be some opportunities for less of that technology use, more
parents would be
a little
happy to
different
hear
look
that.
to those days. So still some hurdles we need to work through, but it is an opportunity that we think we may be able to take advantage of.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. So we are voting to approve the purchase of Apple iPads. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Number 7, approve the overnight athletic trip for Lowell High School softball team to participate in the Twin Lakes softball tournament in Monticello, Indiana from May 3rd and 4th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the athletic trip.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Number 8, presentation on electric school buses.
Not anything cheaper.
Let's see.
tech office. 8260.
That's cool. But that's an infrastructure. Such an infrastructure.
Good evening. Back in the fall, we had a small conversation about the possibility of switching our bus fleet to electric school buses, or at least transitioning some of our fleet to that. So over the course of that time, I've been looking at different possibilities, looking at the feasibility of actually making that happen for Tri Creek School Corporation, and I wanted to share some of the findings that I had with you. So the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to ask we wanted to ask questions of, are electric buses right for Tri Creek School Corporation? Will the performance of an electric bus be similar to a diesel bus? We want to make sure that if we do get something, we're not going to sacrifice any of the performance that we currently have. Will we need to change our operation to accommodate electric buses? Obviously, the charging part of it will have to be incorporated into our operation, but what other changes will need to be made? Will we need to change the way we route buses? Will we need to change the way we do trips? Those kinds of things. We have to ask ourselves those questions. And then probably the most important part of it is what will the cost impact of going to electric buses actually be? And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The main thing that's kind of driven the whole electric school bus phenomenon right now is the EPA's Clean School Bus Grant. Grant rebates, there are two different versions of the same program, but it's the Clean School Bus Initiative by the EPA. The EPA or the federal government has committed $5 billion over the course of 5 years to help fund cleaner burning school buses. That is not only electric buses, but it also could be propane buses, compact natural gas, those kinds of things. The program ends fiscal year 2026, so we still have some time to go. There are every year when they reintroduce the next rebate or the next grant program, they make it very clear that it's kind of like wiping the slate clean. Everybody's got a chance to get some funding again. So they want to encourage people to continue to participate throughout the years. The current or the most recent iterations of the rebate that we've had have been very heavily focused on the prioritization model. So they have certain levels or certain categories of groups that they want to prioritize to get this funding. High need, low income is one of them. Rural, and when they talk about rural, they're talking about remote rural, so we're talking about the populations outside the city centers. And then tribal is another big one that they've been trying to focus on. Unfortunately, we don't fall into any of those categories. That does not mean we can't participate in the grant funding, but it is one of those things where we're not going to be at the top of the list in terms of funding possibilities. The funding possibilities that I was looking at for our purposes here is to replace a Class 7 school bus, zero emissions, ZE is zero emissions. That would be your electric school bus. And for this particular grant cycle, they had an award of $200,000 for the category that we're in. Because we're not prioritized, we don't get the same kind of funding as if we fell into one of the prioritized categories. The prioritized categories were eligible for $325,000 for a Class 7 zero emission school bus. So gives you an idea of the differences. Over the course of the months that we've been looking at this stuff, I've sat through webinars, I've done research online, talked to people. Some of the key people that I've talked to in terms of, and we'll talk a little bit more about these guys in a little bit. Marty Freeman is the transportation director at Crown Point Schools. You may remember we used to teach at the high school for a while. I was at Lake Central for a little while. They do have an electric school bus that they got with EPA funding. And as a matter of fact, they have the exact same model that we would consider purchasing if we were to purchase an electric bus. Nate Coates is a contact that Dana put me in contact with. He is currently at Greater Clark County Schools. I don't remember where he was at before. When he was looking at it, it doesn't really matter. But
it was in the Bloomington area.
I couldn't remember where he was at. But when he was working with his previous school district, they investigated electric buses as well, and he had some input as to some of their decision making in terms of how they went about it. And then Dave Dorsett is the lead electric bus salesman for Curlin Bus Sales, who is our bus provider. And he gave me all kinds of information, particularly when it came to charging infrastructure and some of that kind of stuff. So as we look through this whole process, we want to evaluate the pros and cons of electric school buses. Are they going to work for us? Will we be able to manage it? One of the big pros of electric school buses is that there is zero emissions. So when we're driving that bus down the road, there is nothing coming out of the tailpipe. There is no tailpipe. You're not going to be able to make an argument that the diesel bus is going to be better in terms of being environmentally friendly. And you're talking about a better health situation for our students. So when you are looking at that electric school bus, you're not going to have those asthma triggers from your diesel fumes and whatnot. You're not going to have to worry about having idling zones within your school boundaries, because when an electric bus idles, there are no emissions to it. Noise is another pro. Very quiet buses. I drove one a couple years ago at Curlin, and other than the road noise of the tires actually hitting the road, there's really no noise to it at all. You are going to get noise, obviously, from the fans or the air conditioning or just the kids jammering in the back. But as far as the actual noise, one of the things I always notice when I'm driving a bus is when I pull up to those railroad tracks, the first thing you got to do at the railroad tracks is everybody's got to be quiet. Well, no matter how quiet the kids are, you still have that diesel engine running right in front of you. It makes it even harder to hear. So it's nice that when you've got this electric bus, you pull up to the railroad tracks, and as long as you get the kids to be quiet in the back, you're actually going to be able to hear what's going on outside that bus, in case there is a train coming down those tracks. So the tire noise on the road is pretty much the main thing, especially if you get more of the beefy tires like we usually do for the winter months. And that noise level then adds to the comfort level for the kids as well. You're also going to still hear the noise for like the air brakes and stuff like that when you pull up to the stop. The one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to be too quiet, because we don't want a bus pulling up at a bus stop and a kid being surprised that the bus is right behind. So we want to make sure that there's something there, and there is a little bit, especially if you're running an air conditioning, like we have driver air conditioner on our buses. That compressor on the bus does make quite a bit of noise, and it will do that in an electric bus as well. And you'll also hear, and I still think that one of the alerts for a student to come out to the bus for his bus stop in the morning is that air brake being pulled, where you hear the psh of the bus as it's pulling up to your stop. I think that's something that people rely on to say, oh, hey, the bus is here. So you're still going to hear that as well. And
so they still have air brakes?
Yeah. Yep. Another nice thing, another pro that I think, is the battery warranty. Originally, when electric buses first started out, they were not really too wild about the performance of their batteries. And they were talking about 5-year battery warranties. But I just was talking to Dave Dorsett with Curlin, and they are now offering 10-year battery warranties for all electric buses that they sell, showing that they have a commitment to it. They're also starting, at least in the Thomas buses, they are going to be in the next, I think it's next year, maybe it's the next 2 years. They're going to start actually producing their own batteries so that they will be able to kind of control the supply chain a little bit more. An estimated battery replacement cost is about $50,000, so that warranty will be critical if we do go with an electric bus. You don't want to have to get to that 10-year mark and have to replace a $50,000 battery in a 10-year-old bus.
Will the state go back down to a 10-year trade-in?
I have no idea. I would like that. That'd be great.
The way it was for years.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we can, in the event that we get to a point where we have to replace things, we can adjust that bus replacement policy to make those things happen. But as far as I know, we're sticking with 12 years for now until they tell us otherwise. And of course, the main pro for going to electric buses is going to be your fuel savings. So right now on our diesel buses, we are using approximately $4,000 to $5,000 per year in diesel fuel. It depends on the buses. Our older buses are using a little bit more, our newer buses using a little less. So that over the 12-year lifespan of the bus, that's going to be about $50,000 to $60,000. Obviously, that cost would then be eliminated by going to electric buses. We would have to transfer some of that to electricity, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But electricity is cheaper than diesel fuel, so we would save quite a bit of money there. And then also in that fuel savings, I include DEF. DEF is the exhaust fluid that you put into a diesel engine, into a diesel bus or a diesel vehicle to mitigate the exhaust properties. It's a clean air initiative thing, and it's pretty much the kind of bane of every diesel mechanic's existence. So getting rid of that is quite a benefit for your electric buses. And just for reference, right now I think we're paying about $2.50 a gallon for DEF. So the bus has an 8-gallon tank for DEF, and we fill it up probably once a month or so. So it does add up over time. And as a matter of fact, we still have some buses that are pre-DEF. So we have, as we add our new diesel buses, we've been just adding more and more DEF use as well. Now, along with the pros, we have to talk about a few of the cons. And this is where we have to really kind of dig into things a little bit. In the mindset of reducing diesel costs, we're going to probably have to think about increased electricity costs. Now, obviously, we have a solar program here, and we have had good success with our solar program over the course of time. However, there's going to come a point where we're not going to be able to produce as much as we're going to need. So we have to make sure that we keep that in mind as well. So estimates are that an electric bus uses about 1.5 kilowatt hours of electricity per mile, and our routes on average are about 70 miles. We have some that are considerably more than that, and some that are less than that as well. But on average, we're talking about maybe 71 miles per day. If you work out the math on that, that's roughly about $3,000 per year in electricity. And we're talking about one bus here too, by the way. So obviously, as we add more buses, we add more cost to that. So if you're talking about bringing down the cost, obviously that's cheaper than the $4,000 to $5,000 a year we're talking about in terms of diesel fuel. But there might still be some cost there depending on where we're at in our solar program and our electric program here at the middle school. And if I guess, well, just digging stuff off the top of my head. Perhaps the biggest obstacle to electric bus use right now is the range of your electric buses. You've heard about this in electric vehicles as well. There is a certain amount of distance that you're going to be able to go on a single charge. Right now, the advertised range of a electric bus is 138 miles. When you talk to Crown Point, the reality is probably more like 120 miles. And mainly that's because you start getting toward the lower end of your battery use, you don't want to try to test it. Because if the battery dies and you're nowhere near a charging station, you've got problems. So they say they probably aren't going to go too much past 120 miles in terms of their range. So Crown Point has one of these buses. They did an experiment over the course of, during the winter, around the polar vortex time. They had some difficulty, well, first of all, they had some difficulty getting their electric bus going at that time. It turns out that there was some issues with the charger in the cold and being able to get all that stuff working together. I believe they got those solved. I never did follow up with them on that, but I believe they got those problems fixed. But they did run an experiment that I was talking to Marty Freeman, and he said, yeah, we put a bus out in the lot and we let it run for 3 hours. And this is the middle of the polar vortex. We turned all the heaters on and we let it run for 3 hours. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you just put a bus out in the parking lot and let it run for 3 hours? And then it dawned on me that 3 hours is probably the typical time that a bus would be running for a route. So what they did is they left the bus run, not moving, in their parking lot for 3 hours with the heaters running. What they were trying to do is they were trying to figure out how much of their battery life is going to be used on heating that bus for the kids or the people inside it. And it turned out that when they were done, they said they had 48% battery left. And that was 3 hours of just sitting there not moving at all. If you add in the fact that the bus then has to move during a route, now you're talking about using even more and more electricity on that bus. And it starts to become concerning in terms of making it through a route. Heating is by far the biggest concern that people have when it comes to colder climates and getting these electric buses to make it through a route. One of the things that we talked about with Nate Coates from the Greater Clark Schools is that when they were considering it at his previous district, they were also considering the factor that when you've got this range of 138 miles, but that's generally in an empty bus. Now you put the high school football team on there, or a bunch of middle school kids, or whatever, and that's going to make the bus heavier, making the engine have to, or the motors have to work harder, use more battery. So that's something to be considered as well. And then going back to Crown Point, they do not use that bus on trips at all. They can't. They get it through a route, and by the time they get it through a route, it might still have decent charge to get them back to the bus garage, or at least around town a little bit more. But if they have to take that bus out to Valpo or Munster or Highland or wherever they're going, they're not going to be able to have enough electric charge on it to get it there and bring it back. So they don't use that bus for trips at all. And basically, yeah, it's just basically your route bus at that point. So Crown Point is not real wild about their bus. As a matter of fact, when they were having the biggest issue, when they were having the biggest issues with it in terms of getting it to start in the cold and whatnot, the words out of Marty Freeman's mouth were, "I'm ready to push it in the lake." So, yeah. And then the biggest con of all is the cost of these things. An electric bus right now, the last spec that we had that would match the current specs that we have for our diesel buses puts the cost of the electric bus at $430,000. A current diesel bus equivalent that we would get with all the same specs and the same options on it would run about $130,000, making the difference $300,000. So basically, we have to find ways to make up that $300,000 difference. $200,000 of that could come from grants, but again, we have to get the grant in order to make that happen. And then if you get one grant, you got to get the next grant too, if we're going to expand the program to a fleet level. So that's a big if we're going to be able to get that $200,000. Fuel savings is another thing. We talked about $50,000 to $60,000 over the course of the lifetime of the bus and fuel savings, but if you factor in the cost of electricity, maybe not. It all depends on if we're able to generate all of that electricity that we can use to power those buses.
Plus the cost of the replacement batteries at 10 years.
Correct. If we need to do that, if we can't get them covered under warranty. And then you talk about parts and DEF. I did not include batteries in the cost of the parts and or in that section, figuring that it would be covered under warranty. But parts and DEF, we're talking about the money that we would save on oil changes. You wouldn't have to do oil changes. So you're going to save money on oil and filters and stuff like that. But this would be different. So we're going to save money on those kinds of parts. And then the DEF, obviously, we won't have to purchase because we don't have diesel engines. When you add all that stuff up, you get about $270,000 of the $300,000 difference that we were trying to make up. So we're not quite there. We're close. And who knows? I mean, there's obviously some rounding in terms of the numbers that we've got here too. So it might be that we could get to $300,000. But if we're going to commit $430,000 to a bus, I'd kind of like to see a little bit more of a benefit from that if we can get that far. So yeah, and then obviously if we don't get the grant or we don't see the fuel savings or we have to rely on our electric bill in order to charge these things, obviously that $270,000 drops even further, and then we're not even really close to our $300,000 difference.
Plus we haven't even mentioned the installation of charging stations.
It's funny you should mention that, Nate.
Oh, there we go.
So some odds and ends. These are neither pros nor cons. If we do electric buses, we are going to have to install charging infrastructure. The chargers themselves, there is a trickle charger that Crown Point uses. It's going to run us about $20,000 in order to install it in our area. Well, let's put it this way. The estimate was about $20,000 to install one of these things. I don't know if that will be our estimate because we have to see if we have capable or qualify, or if we are capable to support that charger at our transportation center. They also have fast chargers. The trickle charger will charge a bus full in 3 to 5 hours, according to Dave Dorsett. The fast charger is 1 to 2 hours. You can charge 2 buses at once, but also you're going to pay quite a bit more for it as well. That's that $50,000 number. Those are for the chargers. We would still have to investigate any kind of infrastructure upgrades that we would need. I did contact NIPSCO. They said that we should, based on what they can see on their end, we should have the capability to do it. The transformer on our property is customer owned, so we own it. So if we're going to do anything to it, it's going to be on us to do it, which means that we're going to have to pay for an electrician to come in and upgrade whatever we need to upgrade there. I did not have an electrician come out and take a look at that yet. I didn't want to incur any costs or anything like that for that unless we were going to move forward. There is no indication of any kind of expanded lifespan of the buses. We talked about the 12-year policy that we have right now. We might be able to get 15 years out of it, but as time goes by, other stuff starts to fail, and stuff that's not necessarily part of the electric bus, or that's not unique to the electric bus. So you're going to get, the roof is going to leak. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's an electric bus or not, or leaky roof is leaky roof. So you're going to get stuff that happens. You've all ridden on an old bus as opposed to a new bus, and you can tell the difference just by riding it. So as time goes by, we might be able to get an extended lifespan out of it, but it's going to show its age just like any other bus would. And then right now there is almost no information about the resale market on these buses. They're all still very new, and people just aren't ready to get rid of them yet. A lot of the buses that we sell right now, the diesel buses that we sell, will go to a contractor. The contractor will buy them and run them till they're in the ground. And they actually, I've had a lot of contractors compliment us on the buses that we sell because they're in such good shape and they get to use them for many years beyond our usable lifespan for them. I don't know if that would happen with an electric bus, especially if they have to pay $50,000 to replace a battery. There was something else I wanted to say.
That's today's cost. 10 years.
Oh, the other thing I've heard of too is that old buses that are traded in from school districts will end up going to places like Mexico and stuff like that. I don't know if there's going to be a market in Mexico for electric buses. So yeah, right now you ask anybody what they're expecting to get for resale on an electric bus, and they just don't have an answer for it. So unfortunately. But I'm sure that will be coming over time. When all is said and done, there is no question that in terms of environmental friendliness and comfort, an electric school bus is probably going to beat out a diesel bus. So when it comes, if that's what we're basing our decisions on, no doubt, let's go ahead and get the electric buses right now. Where we probably run into some issues is fuel savings. We just don't quite know if we're going to save. If we could say we're generating enough electricity from those solar panels to power every bus, we're going to save $50,000, $60,000 on every single bus. That'd be great. But as we grow our fleet, that's probably not going to be able to be maintained. The bus range is a huge concern for me. It does definitely limit the flexibility of what we can do with our buses. That's going to have to, when it comes to trips, we're going to have to make sure that this driver's in this bus for this trip on this day, and this driver's doing that, and it just makes things very confusing. It's confusing right now as it is with all the rain and rescheduling of events and stuff like that. Now throw in the fact that this bus can't go there and this bus can't go there, then you run into some more problems. And then the return on investment might not be as possible as we think it might be. Might not even be able to get the full return on investment over the 12-year lifespan of the bus. So I'm sure at some point we probably could get it, but are we going to be able to run the bus for that long in order to make it happen? So when all is said and done, I would love to have electric buses at Tri-Creek School Corporation. I just don't know that the price point and the battery range right now is at a point where we should proceed.
So Mr. Mitch, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, you had inquired about this, and so there's been a lot of...
Still not there yet.
We're not there yet. And wanted John to present tonight because it's becoming that time where we get ready to order buses, and I wanted to make sure we did due diligence to rule out electric. Plus, we've got all these capital improvement projects going on, and we need to figure out, are we going down that road right now or not? And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What do we get out of our used buses when we sell them?
Well, right now, the last round we got $7,000. However, that was There was an issue with the order that we made with our new buses, and to compensate for that, Curlin gave us a little bit more in our trade-ins. The last number that I saw for our old DT 466 engines that we have is probably going to be about $4,000, $4,500. What I would like to do with this next purchase, I purposely, on the specs that I requested from Curlin, I purposely wanted them to leave off the trade-in values, with the idea that maybe we could go on the auction market or something like that, and maybe get a little bit more money than Curlin would offer us for the trade. So I can tell you right now.
Oh, that's cheap.
I'm telling you right now that there are quite a few districts that are looking for buses, and every once in a while I'll get a phone call saying, you got any that I can have? And so I'm thinking that we may be able to beat out that trade-in value and actually get something.
You get to be a used car salesman now.
Take it?
You get to be a used car salesman now. Add it to the list.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
How many buses do we have in our fleet right now?
We have 46 big buses and 2 short Type A buses.
Thank you.
And we have one new one coming here sometime soon. We got 3 last month, and then we still have 1 more coming whenever it gets off the assembly line, which were ordered almost 2 years ago.
Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, guys, we're at the consent items part of this. We're almost done. All right, they're all donations, so I'm going to read through them all. Number 1, accept the donation from Family Express Corporation of Valparaiso, Indiana, in the form of 12 dozen assorted cookies valued at $126.96 to be served at the Lowell Middle School Teen Health Summit on March 19th, 2024. Number 2, accept the donation from Premier Group of Lowell, Indiana, in the amount of $300 to help fund the Lowell High School football RDP alumni ECA for golf outing sponsorships. Number 3, accept the donation from Centier Bank of Maryville, Indiana, in the amount of $150 to help fund the Lowell High School football RDP alumni ECA for golf outing. Number 4, accept the donation of $150 each from the following organizations to help fund the Lowell High School football RDP alumni ECA for golf outing sponsorship. Tri Creek Rentals, Austin Electric, 2 donations, Pro Edge Properties, Toyota of Maryville, Seiko Industries, Westside Tractor, Hoffer, Ronson Equipment Company, Puntillo and Crane, DeMott State Bank, and Stan's Body Shop. Number 5, accept the donation from Ray and Wally's Towing Service of Linwood, Illinois, in the amount of $300 to help fund the Lowell High School Red Devil Racing ECA Fund for go-kart expenses. Number 6, accept the various donations in the amount of $505 in memory of Austin Brunsma to help support the Lowell High School Welding ECA account for supplies. Number 7, accept the donation from Gary Pike of Lowell, Indiana, in the amount of $25 to help support Feed Them Forward Fund to pay down negative student meal balances. Number 8, accept the donation from Faith Seelig in the amount of $50 to help support Feed Them Forward Fund. Number 9, accept the donation from Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $339.69 to help fund the kindergarten study trip. Number 10, accept the donation from the Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $565.40 to be used for math bowl expenses. And number 11, accept the donation from Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO in the amount of $1,120.85 to help fund purchases for field day shirts.
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, I'll let you have it.
I'm waiting for that. I will make the motion to accept all these amazing donations.
And I will second that.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment not related to agenda items. We don't have any.
I just want to make a public comment.
Go for it.
Welcome, Tammy Doherty. We're very glad to have you. And our board meetings don't typically have 3 presentations on one night. Thanks for sticking it out. And we've got some administrators over here that would love to meet you afterwards.
Thank you.
And her poor husband had to sit with
Yes. All things goes to
We
you.
got you covered, buddy.
All right, the next meeting for the Tri Creek School Board of Trustees is scheduled for Thursday, April 25th, 2024. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.